Hello there, and welcome to LUMIVERSE NL. Tonight, we travel beneath the surface of the world into the quiet heart of the earth, a place sculpted by time, by water, and by patience so profound that even silence feels alive. Beneath mountains and forests, beneath oceans and stone, lies a realm few ever see, the underground world. A network of passages where geology becomes poetry and the history of our planet whispers through walls of crystal and limestone. Caves are not violent creations, but works of quiet persistence. A single drop of water, falling endlessly through centuries, can carve chambers vast enough to hold cities. When rain seeps into the soil, it gathers invisible strength, absorbing carbon dioxide and turning gently acidic. Over time, it meets limestone, soft, ancient, and waiting. Each drop dissolves a tiny grain, hollowing out the rock little by little, until entire corridors appear tunnels where the earth breathes slowly in the dark. The sound of dripping water becomes a kind of heartbeat. From those drops grow the slow sculptures we call stalactites and stalagmites, slender spires reaching toward one another like the hands of time. Some took thousands of years to grow a single inch. Others stretch like stone curtains from ceiling to floor, their forms echoing the rhythm of every drop that shaped them. To stand within such a chamber is to stand inside time itself. The air is cool and heavy, carrying the scent of minerals and deep earth. Every shimmer of moisture on the wall marks an age. Every crystal holds a record of water that fell before humankind existed. Here, in the calm beneath chaos, the earth remembers its own slow breath. So tonight, as you listen, imagine descending into that silence. Feel the temperature fall, the light dim, the air grow still. Around you, the world narrows into stone and sound, a vast cathedral carved not by hands, but by patience, and in that patience lies peace. Because caves are not only stories of darkness, they are stories of endurance, of transformation, of how even the gentlest force can reshape the world. This is where the journey begins. As we travel deeper, the stone around us begins to whisper its story. It tells of water that never sleeps, of minerals drawn upward through the heart of the earth, of a patience that stretches beyond all memory. Caves are born not from chaos, but from rhythm, the rhythm of water. Drop after drop, tracing invisible paths through time. Imagine a raindrop falling from the sky, sinking through soil, touching root and rock, collecting traces of carbon and mineral. Now imagine that drop joined by billions more, each finding its way through cracks in the limestone. Together, they carve a network of veins beneath our feet. Arteries of water slowly widening into chambers, rooms that once began as nothing but a thin seam in stone. Inside these chambers, the earth becomes an artist. Ceilings glitter with mineral frost. Walls ripple with layers of calcite that gleam like silk in lamplight. Here, the slow chemistry of time performs its silent work. Each shimmer marks an ancient flood, each line a season recorded in rock. In these depths, gravity becomes the sculptor. Water dripping from above leaves behind a film of dissolved stone, a slow deposit that builds into stalactites, slender and sharp. On the floor below, the same droplets gather, building stalagmites that rise upward like patient towers. Over millennia, the two may meet, forming a single column, a bridge between earth and sky within the eternal night. But caves are not only hollow spaces, they are living systems that move, breathe, and evolve. The air that stirs around you has traveled through miles of stone, carrying with it the scent of minerals and time. Tiny streams continue their quiet labor, etching new passages, shaping new rooms, turning solid rock into a flowing memory of the world. Some of these caverns are so vast that the human voice returns as an echo seconds later, as if time itself needs a moment to reply. Others are so narrow you must crawl through darkness, guided only by touch and breath. Each space, grand or small, is part of one immense organism. The Earth's hidden architecture, built not in decades or centuries, but in silence and persistence. To walk here is to listen to the rhythm of creation itself. The slow drip of water, the soft hiss of air, the quiet conversation between matter and time. And as you stand still, you may begin to feel that you too are part of that rhythm, an echo in the breathing of the earth. To journey further into the underground world is to step back through time itself. Each layer of stone beneath your feet is an ancient page, a record written in minerals and pressure, stretching back millions, even hundreds of millions of years. Caves remind us that the earth is not fixed, but alive with change, breathing in cycles longer than imagination can measure. Some of the grandest caverns on the planet began as simple fractures, formed when continents shifted and seas withdrew. Over time, gentle rain and groundwater slipped into those openings, enlarging them grain by grain until vast tunnels emerged. These hidden spaces have outlasted empires, survived ice ages, and waited in silence as entire civilizations rose and fell above them. To stand within one is to feel the weight of deep time pressing softly against your skin. Imagine a drop of water falling in the same place for 1,000 years. Now imagine 10,000 years, each drop landing with quiet purpose, carving its mark, etching the story of patience into the heart of stone. That is the rhythm of cave formation, not destruction, but devotion, a devotion to transformation so slow it feels eternal. Scientists call this process karst formation. It begins wherever water meets soluble rock, usually limestone or dolomite. As rainwater seeps downward, it carries carbon dioxide from the soil, turning slightly acidic. This weak acid dissolves the rock, expanding cracks into passages, passages into chambers, and chambers into sprawling systems. Some of these networks stretch for hundreds of miles beneath mountains, a labyrinth of corridors that continue to grow even now, guided by nothing but gravity and time. There are caves still forming at this very moment. Water seeps through ceilings, depositing minerals, while elsewhere it erodes new paths into the rock. Stalactites lengthen by less than a millimeter each year, their tips glistening like frozen raindrops. A single lifetime would not reveal even a breath of progress, and yet, over epochs, they rise like monuments, cathedrals built from patience alone. Some of these caves began their journey when dinosaurs still walked the surface. Their growth continued through ice and thaw, through the rise of forests and the fall of glaciers, through the entire history of humanity. When early humans painted their stories on cave walls, many of those chambers were already ancient, shaped by countless rains that fell before the first spark of fire. Inside these spaces, the passage of time feels different. You begin to sense that the world above is only a brief moment, a flicker in a continuum that moves far more slowly here below. Caves stretch the imagination until seconds feel like centuries, and silence carries more meaning than words ever could. The deeper you go, the more the world simplifies. Light fades, colors dissolve, and all that remains is texture, the cold curve of rock beneath your fingers, the echo of a drop of water, the pulse of your own breathing, mingling with the slow respiration of the earth. Down here, time doesn't rush. It curls like mist around ancient pillars, lingering in places where the surface world has long forgotten to look. And as we move further into this realm of darkness and stillness, we begin to understand something essential, that creation is not always loud or sudden. Sometimes it happens in silence, through the steady patience of a single drop of rain, that even without light, there is growth. Even without motion, there is change. Even within stillness, there is life. In the next chapter of our journey, we'll witness the many ways the earth creates caves, not only through water, but through fire, wind, and ice. Because the planet has more than one language of creation, and every cave is a verse in that ancient song. The earth is an artist of endless mediums. Some of its masterpieces are sculpted not by water, but by fire, wind, and ice, each carving its own signature into stone. If water is the patient painter of time, then fire is its sudden hand, shaping worlds in a single blazing breath. In volcanic lands, where molten rivers once glowed in the night, a different kind of cave is born. When lava surges down a mountainside, its surface cools first, forming a thin crust. Beneath this crust, the molten rock continues to flow, hollowing tunnels as it moves. When the eruption ceases and the liquid fire drains away, what remains is an empty corridor, a lava tube, a cathedral forged by heat. These fiery caves are unlike the slow, dripping hollows of limestone. Their walls still bear the marks of movement, ripples frozen in time, waves that once glowed like rivers of light. The air inside them feels dry and ancient, and the ground beneath your feet seems to hum with the memory of the planet's heartbeat. Some of these tunnels stretch for miles, long enough that explorers could walk for hours through their black stillness, surrounded by shapes born from eruption. Lava caves form in weeks or months, a heartbeat compared to the million-year patience of water. They are proof that not all beauty demands waiting, that sometimes the earth creates in bursts of brilliance and flame. Even here, you can sense the paradox of creation, that destruction and art are often the same act, but not all caves are born of fire. At the edges of continents, where land meets sea, waves become sculptors too. Day after day, tide after tide, the ocean strikes against cliffs with relentless rhythm. Salt water seeps into cracks, grinding away the rock with sand, its chemistry eroding what time began. Slowly, the coast yields, and the stone opens, revealing sea caves, vast mouths that breathe with the pulse of the tide. To stand inside one is to stand between worlds, half ocean, half earth. The thunder of waves fills the chamber, echoing off wet walls that shimmer in reflected light. When sunlight strikes the entrance at the perfect angle, the entire space glows golden or blue, a living lantern beneath the cliffs. Sailors once feared these places believing them to be the lungs of the sea, breathing in storms and sighing them back into the open air. But to scientists, they are simple wonders of erosion, a reminder that even the strongest stone cannot resist motion forever. Some of the most haunting sea caves remain unseen, hidden behind crashing surf or submerged beneath rising tides. For a few moments each day, as the waves recede and light filters in, their entrances appear like gateways to another realm. You can almost hear the dialogue between water and rock, a slow conversation of impact, surrender, and renewal. Each crash of the ocean rewrites the coastline, and each retreat leaves behind a deeper hollow. Here, the sea carves its poetry in motion, its rhythm endless and eternal. And then, in colder lands, the sculptor changes. Again, in the high latitudes where glaciers flow, ice becomes the chisel, its touch slow but unyielding. Meltwater snakes through blue corridors, cutting through frozen walls that glow like glass. These ice caves are among the most fragile of all, formed in one season, gone the next. Sunlight, passing through their translucent ceilings, turns the chambers into cathedrals of liquid sapphire. Each passage hums with the sound of dripping meltwater, each crystal catching the faintest light of the outside world. To walk inside an ice cave is to enter a dream that knows it will end. You can hear it melting, feel the floor shift beneath your boots. It is beauty in its briefest form, a temporary sculpture of motion and fragility. When the glacier moves, the cave will collapse. When winter returns, a new one will take its place. And so the earth creates again, not in permanence, a reminder that even the most fleeting wonders can leave an eternal impression on the mind. Each type of cave, water, fire, sea, or ice, is a different verse in the same story, the story of transformation. The planet is always speaking, always sculpting, through destruction, through silence, through flow. To witness, it is to glimpse creation itself, not in distant galaxies, but beneath your feet. And in that realization lies something humbling, that even within the dark, the earth is never still. It is always dreaming of its next shape. In the endless patience of time, every element takes a turn shaping the world. Water, fire, and ice may seem like opposites, yet they work in harmony, each carving its own passage through the bones of the planet. But there is another sculptor, invisible yet tireless, the wind. In vast deserts, where stone cliffs rise like ancient walls, the air itself becomes a chisel. Grains of sand carried on relentless gusts grind against rock for centuries, etching away the surface, carving hollows and deepening shadows. Slowly, these abrasions open into smooth chambers, aeolian caves, born not of dripping water or flowing lava, but of motion itself, ing of air wearing stone down with nothing but persistence. To stand within one of these wind-sculpted hollows is to see the poetry of erosion. Walls curve and twist as though carved by hand. Textures ripple like waves frozen in sandstone. Each line a trace of wind's invisible passage. When sunlight spills through an opening, the rock glows warm amber, illuminating patterns that shift through the day, as if the cave itself were breathing with the desert. Unlike the damp silence of limestone caverns, these places feel dry, open, and weightless, filled with whispers of passing air. At dusk, the breeze hums through their openings, producing low tones that resonate like the earth's own voice. It is a sound both comforting and ancient, a reminder that even the gentlest force, given time, can change the face of the world. Wind, in its patience, sculpts beauty from absence. It moves endlessly, carrying stories across continents, shaping dunes, polishing cliffs, and in the process, leaving behind hidden sanctuaries of silence. These airy chambers seem alive, as if the planet itself exhales through them, reminding us that motion can be as creative as stillness. Yet among all these types of caves, some hold something even stranger, a beauty grown rather than carved. Deep within the earth, where heat meets mineral water, entire chambers can fill with crystals. Over immense spans of time, the slow dripping of mineral-rich water allows crystals to grow, forming translucent structures that glitter in the dim light. These are crystal caves, natural cathedrals of geometry and light. In some, the formations are small and delicate, needle-thin gypsum threads, clusters of quartz sparkling like frost. But in others, such as the famous Cave of the Crystals in Mexico, the scale defies belief. There, within a hidden chamber once flooded with scalding mineral water, great beams of selenite extend over 30 feet in length, weighing as much as entire vehicles. They gleam like frozen lightning, white and radiant. Their surface is smooth as glass. The environment that birthed them is harsh and unforgiving. Temperatures reach beyond what the human body can endure, and the humidity turns air into water you can almost breathe. Explorers who entered could only stay for minutes at a time, their suits packed with cooling ice, their visors fogged by heat. And yet, within that unbearable stillness, the earth has grown one of its most ethereal wonders, a forest of crystals so vast and luminous that it feels like walking inside a dream of light. Each crystal records the story of its birth, layer upon layer of minerals locked in transparency, each reflecting the chemistry of the ancient water that once flowed here. In their shimmering stillness lies a paradox: growth within silence, motion within stillness, life born from heat and confinement. To gaze upon them is to realize that the underground is not merely absence or void. It is abundance, a secret garden blooming in the dark. As you stand in these chambers of stone and light, you begin to sense how alive the earth truly is. It changes slowly, almost imperceptibly, yet never ceases to create. Every drop, every gust, every grain of sand is part of the same vast act of sculpting, the planet's own expression of art. And in that realization, a quiet truth unfolds. The world beneath us is not asleep, but dreaming. A dream made of water, wind, fire. And within that dream, we are only visitors, listening to the language of stone. Not all caves are carved by the same forces that sculpt mountains and valleys. Some are born from the most delicate of interactions, chemical whispers beneath the surface, where invisible reactions slowly hollow the earth from within. In these hidden laboratories, acids and minerals perform a patient dance, etching entire worlds beneath our feet. One of the most extraordinary examples lies deep beneath New Mexico, where Carlsbad caverns stretch through the desert stone. Unlike the gentle work of carbonic acid from rainwater, these caverns were carved by a stronger, more volatile artist sulfuric acid. Here, hydrogen sulfide gas rising from deep petroleum layers met oxygenated groundwater, creating acid so potent that it devoured limestone in silence. Over ages, tunnels widened, ceilings collapsed, and the underground expanded into colossal chambers that now echo with the footsteps of explorers and the soft drip of water. The marks of this process are unmistakable. Walls ripple with strange textures, as if they were melted rather than eroded. Smooth domes blend with jagged scars, and mineral deposits bloom like frost across the stone. Even now, the faint scent of sulfur lingers in the air, a ghost of the chemical storm that once raged unseen. Sulfuric caves remind us that not all creation requires light or life. Some of it unfolds entirely in darkness, powered by forces older than biology itself. The earth, even in its depths, never ceases to move, to change, to react. Every mineral, every droplet, plays its part in an endless process of transformation. And yet, among all the caverns carved by acid and water, there exists another kind of cave, softer, stranger, and alive in its own way. In places where ancient seas once dried and vanished, they left behind vast layers of salt, buried and compressed by time. Within these formations, salt caves form, not by erosion, but by movement. Unlike hard limestone, salt is pliable. It flows under pressure, creeping slowly over centuries, its walls twisting and folding as if breathing. Step inside one, and you may see the stone itself in motion, curving in ribbons, glimmering with crystalline sheen. Here, walls appear alive, glistening as if light were trapped inside them. They shift and reform so gradually that no human eye can notice. But the evidence remains in warped tunnels and bending columns, in patterns that seem to ripple like waves of frozen time. These caves are delicate worlds, vulnerable to water that can dissolve them overnight. Some collapse without warning, others evolve into shimmering labyrinths, decorated with salt crystals forming intricate lace across the rock. The air tastes faintly mineral, and every surface sparkles as if dusted with snow. Salt caves remind us that even the Earth's hardest forms can soften, flow, and yield. And there are still other places where stone tells its story differently, where ancient air itself is trapped inside the rock. Deep within the mineral layers of caves, tiny bubbles of atmosphere are sealed away, preserved for millennia. Scientists study them like messages in bottles from the past, each one containing traces of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other gases that reveal the breath of the planet, long before we walked upon it. In this way, caves become not just structures, but archives of time, libraries written in stone and sealed with air. Inside these archives, we can measure the pulse of ages. When glaciers advanced and retreated, when droughts spread across continents, when forests grew, and deserts swallowed them again. Each layer, each trapped molecule, is a record of how Earth has evolved, a diary kept by silence. To wander through such a place is to walk through time itself. You can almost feel the weight of history pressing outward from the walls, hear the faint echo of chemical reactions that shaped the air you breathe. These caves are not empty. They are breathing archives, holding the memory of a world before words, before witness. And as you leave them, the realization lingers that even now, the earth continues to write, not with ink, not with fire, but with water, salt, and time, in an alphabet only patience can read. The deeper we travel into the underworld of stone, the more we see that caves are not static relics, they are alive. They shift, expand, collapse, and grow, always changing, even when it seems that time has stopped. For beneath the stillness lies motion, and beneath the silence, creation continues. Many imagine caves as frozen monuments, unchanged since the day they were discovered. But in truth, they are breathing landscapes. Rain continues to fall above ground, its water slipping through cracks and seeping into chambers. dissolving stone here, depositing minerals there. Each drop contributes to the slow, ongoing conversation between rock and water, a conversation that has never ended. Some formations inside these caves still grow today. Stalactites lengthen imperceptibly, each drop leaving behind a dusting of calcite that adds a fraction of a millimeter every year. Stalagmites rise in answer from the floor, built by the same patient rhythm. Given enough centuries, these two structures will meet, forming slender columns that fuse ceiling and ground, the Earth's own architecture of endurance. Elsewhere, new tunnels open while others close. Rivers shift direction, ceilings weaken, and at times, entire caverns collapse under their own weight. When this happens, the surface above gives way, creating immense circular pits known as sinkholes. Some are small enough to step across. Others are vast enough to swallow forests, roads, even entire villages. To the eye, they seem sudden, a hole appearing overnight where the ground once stood firm. But in truth, they are the surface finally admitting what water and gravity have known for centuries, that everything solid is slowly hollowing out beneath us. For scientists, these sinkholes are windows, glimpses into the Earth's secret architecture. For those who witness them forming, they are reminders of how fragile the ground can be. What appears solid may in fact be a thin crust over vast emptiness, waiting for the right moment to reveal its hidden heart. Somewhere below these fractures and chambers, entire underground rivers continue to flow. They carve their way through the rock, feeding lakes that may never see sunlight. The water is clear as glass, undisturbed by sediment or wind. It reflects only the light we bring with us, a mirror to the world above. In these depths, every ripple echoes endlessly, and sound travels like memory through the dark. Within such places, time moves differently. Drops fall, air shifts, minerals settle, the slowest dance imaginable, but one that never truly stops. A stalactite broken today might take 10,000 years to return. A single tremor could change the course of an entire cave system. To explore one is to enter an environment that rewrites itself constantly, so subtly that no single lifetime could ever notice. Yet we can feel it, the faint vibrations underfoot, the gentle breeze that seems to come from nowhere. They are signs of an underground world still in motion. Caves, in their quiet way, are alive. They inhale and exhale through their entrances, their air shifting with pressure and weather above. They grow, collapse, and rebuild, a slow heartbeat echoing through stone. And as the millennia unfold, some of these caverns will change beyond recognition. Columns will meet ceilings, tunnels will flood and vanish. New rooms will open where there was once solid rock. The process never stops. A reminder that even the Earth's deepest stillness is only an illusion of peace. If you stand long enough in a living cave, you may hear it breathe, a distant drip, a sigh of air, a stone settling somewhere far beyond your light. That is the sound of patience, of the world quietly remaking itself in the dark. And when you leave, you carry a fragment of that patience within you, the awareness that nothing truly stands still, and that even silence can shape the earth. Far beneath the surface, where light cannot reach, the earth hides cathedrals so vast that their scale defies imagination. These are the grandest halls of the underground, spaces so immense that they challenge our sense of size, and silence so deep it humbles the heart. Some caves stretch downward for miles, deeper than the tallest mountains rise. The Veryovkina cave in the Caucasus plunges more than 6,000 feet into the earth, a vertical labyrinth where explorers descend for days, lowering themselves into shafts that seem to have no end. Down there, the air thickens, and the boundaries between body, sound, and space begin to blur. Water drips from unseen ledges, each drop amplified by the hollow echo of the world below. It is an inversion of ascent, a journey not toward the sky, but into the planet's beating core. For those who brave such depths, the experience borders on the surreal. Headlamps pierce the darkness for only a few meters ahead, and the light feels fragile against so much blackness. There is no horizon, no sun, only the sensation of falling endlessly into the Earth's memory. Every sound, from the rustle of clothing to the faintest breath, returns multiplied. As if the cavern itself is listening. Other caves, though not as deep, spread outward like cities. The Mammoth Cave System in Kentucky, the longest known on Earth, winds through more than 400 miles of passageways. To walk within it is to explore a labyrinth larger than comprehension. Corridors upon corridors, chambers upon chambers, stretching across an empire of stone. Some tunnels are narrow enough for a single person to crawl through. Others open suddenly into colossal rooms, so vast that a shout might take seconds to return. Within these spaces, explorers discover rivers flowing in total darkness, feeding hidden lakes and waterfalls that thunder unseen. Their waters are cold, pure, filtered through stone until they gleam like crystal. In the glow of a lantern, they appear motionless but touch the surface, and ripples spread for minutes, echoing through the subterranean stillness. To witness one is to see the Earth's bloodstream revealed, a network of water that sustains both stone and life alike. Some chambers are so large they could hold city blocks. The Sarawak Chamber in Malaysia is vast enough to contain dozens of skyscrapers side by side. Standing within it, explorers describe the sensation of being outside, under an open sky that happens to be made of stone. The scale is impossible to capture, the human mind struggling to map what it cannot measure. Light beams dissolve before they reach the walls, and voices vanish into the immensity. Even technology seems fragile here, its hum swallowed by the weight of time. Then there are the ceilings. In some caverns, they rise hundreds of feet above the floor, their domes curved and perfect, their surfaces alive with mineral textures and ancient stains. In Vietnam's Son Doong Cave, the roof towers higher than the tallest buildings of New York or Tokyo. Sunlight filters through collapsed openings, nurturing entire jungles within the cave itself. Mist hangs like breath above rivers, and clouds form and drift beneath the stone ceiling. It is a world within a world, a planet's secret reflection of the surface above. Standing there, you feel something beyond awe. You sense the vastness of creation, the patience of geology, and the quiet artistry that sculpted these halls over millions of years. They are not just empty spaces. They are monuments to time itself. Each curve of stone, each suspended droplet, is a reminder that nature creates with both force and grace. In these vast subterranean cathedrals, you can almost hear eternity breathing. It moves through the still air, echoes through the dripping water, and waits in the quiet dark, as if guarding the planet's oldest memories. And in that silence, you realize how small we truly are. Tiny sparks of consciousness, wandering through the endless architecture of the Earth. Beneath the mountains, beneath the weight of continents, water moves in silence, unseen, unending. It flows through fractures in the rock, through tunnels that twist like arteries beneath the skin of the world. These are the underground rivers, the hidden bloodstream of the planet. They are ancient, secret, and alive with motion. Some are narrow as a single handspan, others are wide enough for boats. Their waters, filtered by layers of stone, are impossibly clear, pure as glass, shimmering like liquid crystal beneath the light of a lamp. To gaze into them is to look into the earth's memory, a mirror without reflection, where every drop has journeyed for centuries before reaching this place. The sound of an underground river is unlike any on the surface. It is softer, deeper, almost meditative, a rhythm that echoes through stone corridors and vanishes into darkness. In some chambers, it murmurs like distant wind. In others, it roars with the power of a storm. Here, water has no sky, no horizon. It simply moves, guided by gravity and time, carving the unseen heart of the earth. Sometimes, these rivers gather into hidden lakes, still, black pools untouched by sunlight. Their surfaces are smooth as glass, reflecting the faint glow of headlamps like scattered stars. Dip your hand in, and the water is cold enough to sting. Pull it out, and no ripple remains. These lakes exist in perfect equilibrium. No wind, no tide, no wave, a balance so fragile that a single breath can disturb it. The creatures that inhabit these waters belong to another world entirely. Blind fish drift through the current, their pale bodies ghost-like in the dark. Crustaceans with translucent shells scuttle across the floor, antennae twitching to read vibrations in the water. Some of these species exist nowhere else on Earth, isolated for millennia in total darkness, adapting to silence the way others adapt to sunlight. Here, carefully, refining not vision, but sensitivity, teaching life to feel rather than see. But these rivers are not always calm. When rain falls miles away, the water seeps downward through porous limestone, filling passages and tunnels like veins swelling with pressure. In moments, a tranquil cave can transform into a torrent. Quiet corridors become roaring conduits, flooding chambers that have slept dry for centuries. Explorers who venture into these systems must learn to listen to the earth, to sense the pulse of the water, to know when the heart below is about to surge. And yet, even within that danger lies the movement of underground rivers is a reminder that nothing on earth is still. What we see as permanence is only pause. These flows connect surface to depth, rain to ocean, sky to stone. Each drop that falls from a cloud begins a journey that might last thousands of years before returning to the sea. It will pass through soil, through cracks and caverns, through lakes that never see the sun, and then emerge again as a spring, cool, clear, reborn. There are places in the world where these hidden waters have been found to stretch for astonishing distances. In Mexico's Sac-Actun system, explorers have mapped hundreds of miles of flooded tunnels beneath the Yucatan jungle. Their paths weave between cenotes, deep sinkholes open to the sky, like a constellation drawn in water instead of stars. Divers glide through corridors of limestone, lined with stalactites, their lights sweeping across bones, pottery, and relics from civilizations long vanished. Each fin stroke carries them through millennia of history, through the same currents that once touched the hands of the ancient Maya. These rivers, these lakes, these hidden seas They are more than geology. They are the pulse of the planet itself. Their whispering waters sustain ecosystems in darkness, feed springs on the surface, and shape entire landscapes without being seen. They remind us that the earth is not solid but porous, a breathing, flowing organism whose lifeblood runs beneath our feet. To listen closely here is to hear something profound, the sound of patience. It is the earth thinking in liquid form, eroding and renewing, sculpting and restoring. Every drop tells the same story, a story of descent, of silence, and of endless return. And when you finally leave the darkness, the air above will feel lighter, the wind more precious, the sound of rain far more sacred, because you'll know where it goes when it disappears, downward. To join the rivers that never sleep. Where rivers whisper through darkness, they sometimes reveal hidden worlds of staggering beauty. Vast chambers that shimmer with reflections, caverns so wide that sound itself seems to drift for seconds before returning. Here, water and light perform together, turning stone into mirror and silence into music. Some caves hold rooms large enough to contain entire city blocks. Their ceilings rise hundreds of feet, arches of mineral that dwarf cathedrals. In places like Son Dung Cave in Vietnam, the scale is so immense that clouds form within it, and trees grow under skylights where the roof has collapsed. A river runs through the center, feeding jungles that thrive in twilight. Ferns, palms, and moss that cling to damp stone as if reaching for a forgotten Sunday. It is a living world, sealed in stone, yet open to the rhythm of weather and wind. At dawn, mist drifts across the cave floor like breath. Sunbeams slant through the openings, high above, catching droplets in the air and turning them to gold. From a distance, you might think you're standing outdoors, beneath clouds that hang just above your head, but you are hundreds of feet below the surface, in a realm of perpetual dusk. Each step stirs echoes that spiral upward, returning as soft whispers from the walls. It is as if the cave itself is answering your presence. Elsewhere, other caves echo with different kinds of grandeur. In Malaysia's Sarawak Chamber, explorers have walked for hours without reaching the far wall. Headlamps vanish into the distance, their beams swallowed by air and dust. The ceiling stretches so high that voices fade before returning. Here, the earth feels impossibly vast, and you realize that what lies below is just as expansive as the sky above. There are caves whose ceilings soar higher than skyscrapers. In some chambers, light from collapsed openings illuminates forests of stone, where stalagmites rise like pillars and stalactites descend like frozen rain. Some of these formations are larger than monuments, rising over 200 feet tall. A forest carved not by time in years, but by persistence in eons. To walk among them is to wander through an ancient architecture of mineral and memory. Every curve tells of water's slow descent. Every gleam of crystal holds a century within it. In certain caverns, acoustics turn air into an instrument. A whisper can travel for hundreds of feet, bouncing between walls like a ghostly choir. When rain falls through openings far above, the droplets strike rock and create a melody of pure, resonant tones. Even silence here has texture, a fullness, a presence, as if the earth itself were humming beneath the weight of its own creation. And yet, Amid this vastness, there are moments of intimate stillness. Pools of water reflect the ceilings above, creating the illusion of bottomless worlds. Twin skies of stone and reflection, so perfect that one cannot tell where reality ends and mirage begins. These underground lakes are motionless but alive, their surfaces trembling only at the faintest breath of air. They capture the shapes of stalactites above, like mirrored constellations, stars formed not of light, but of limestone. To stand before such a reflection is to feel both awe and humility. Here, gravity feels softer, time feels slower, and even breath becomes part of the rhythm. Each ripple carries centuries of erosion, each shimmer 1,000 unseen raindrops. In this stillness, you begin to understand how caves are not just voids in the earth. They are living archives, each formation a record of rainfall, chemistry, and patience. And deep within the largest of these caves, life finds a way to endure. Bats gather by the thousands in shadowed domes, their wings fluttering like the turning of pages. Crickets chirp softly from cracks in the walls, and small streams feed colonies of blind fish in pools below. It is a delicate ecosystem, one that depends entirely on the quiet cycles of the surface world. Guano from bats becomes food for insects. Insects nourish spiders and salamanders. Even bacteria thrive on the minerals left behind. Within the stillest places, existence continues fragile, rhythmic, eternal. In moments like these, it is impossible not to feel reverence. You are no longer an intruder in darkness, but a witness to the earth's hidden heartbeat. The air is heavy, sacred, ancient. The rock around you seems to breathe, and as you lift your eyes to ceilings higher than any temple, you sense a truth older than language, that the planet itself dreams in these halls, shaping beauty through nothing but time and silence. Life does not always need light. In the deepest chambers of the earth, where no ray of sun has ever reached, entire ecosystems thrive in darkness. Here, existence has rewritten its own rules, evolving to survive in a world without day or night, without seasons, without stars. These are the cave ecosystems, the silent laboratories of evolution. Every living thing here has adapted to scarcity, to stillness, and to time that moves almost imperceptibly. Where photosynthesis cannot exist, life draws energy from other sources. The slow decay of organic matter, the mineral traces left behind by water, and the faint nourishment carried in by streams. It is a fragile chain of survival, balanced on the edge of the impossible. At its foundation are the smallest of beings, microbes that feed directly on stone. They extract energy from iron, sulfur, or manganese, metabolizing minerals instead of sunlight. These tiny chemists form thin films on the walls, glistening under light like silver dust. They are among the oldest forms of life on Earth, and perhaps the closest mirror to what life might be on other worlds. In places like Lechuguilla Cave in New Mexico, scientists have found microbes untouched by surface contamination, isolated for millions of years. Some produce antibiotics never seen before, molecules shaped by survival in total isolation. It is possible that the medicine of the future may come from organisms born in complete darkness. Above these microbial gardens live stranger beings, white worms, blind amphipods, and translucent insects that feed on the invisible rain of nutrients drifting from above. Every scrap of energy here is recycled endlessly. Bat guano, pollen insects, even the remains of their own kind. Each creature has found its niche in this closed, eternal loop. To disturb one link is to risk the collapse of all. Among the most mysterious inhabitants are the cave fish, creatures that have surrendered their eyes to darkness. Generation after generation, their vision faded until only smooth skin remains where eyes once were. Yet they have gained something remarkable in return, an extraordinary sensitivity. Their bodies detect vibrations in water, their senses so fine they can navigate with perfect precision. Through complete blackness, they have traded sight for awareness, and in doing so, they have become masters of a realm without light. In nearby pools, other species take evolution to new extremes. Some crustaceans have become transparent, their organs visible through their shells. Others have elongated limbs and antennae to feel their way across invisible terrain. Each adaptation tells the same story, that life, when faced with darkness, does not vanish. It transforms. The air, though heavy and cool, is filled with motion. Tiny moths flutter in chambers near the entrance, while salamanders glide silently through underground streams. Bats roost in clusters on the ceilings, their wings folded like shadows. At dusk, they pour out in vast swarms, rising into the sky to feed, their return before dawn, sustaining the web of life within. Their droppings, humble and unassuming, become the foundation of an entire ecosystem, food for beetles, crickets, and bacteria, which in turn nourish everything else. From waste, a world is born. The balance is delicate beyond comprehension. A single disruption, too much light, too much noise, too many footsteps, can shift it. These creatures have evolved for quiet and consistency, not for change. When explorers enter their realm, they bring with them the chaos of the surface world. Every echo of a bootstep, every exhale of carbon dioxide is a ripple in a system perfected by silence. Yet for all its fragility, this hidden life endures. It has survived ice ages, droughts, and the shifting of continents. It has learned to flourish in conditions that would kill nearly everything else. And in its persistence, it carries a message both humbling, that life is not defined by sunlight, but by adaptability. To watch a blind fish glide through black water is to witness the triumph of resilience. To see a colony of bacteria glimmer faintly on a stone wall is to see the first spark of existence itself. In these quiet caverns, you realize that darkness is not the absence of life. It is its most ancient home. Somewhere in the echoing distance, you can hear the soft flutter of wings, the faint drip of water, the heartbeat of the living earth continuing unseen. And in that rhythm, you sense a truth that transcends biology, that even when the world above sleeps, the underground never does. When the lights fade and silence deepens, the underground world begins to glow. In the still air of certain caverns, the ceilings shimmer with points of blue-green light, as though a fragment of the night sky has fallen beneath the earth. These are the glowworm caves, where darkness itself becomes luminous. High above the chambers, tiny larvae hang from the rock, spinning threads of silk that dangle like a delicate curtain. Each thread glistens with droplets of mucus, bait for unsuspecting insects drawn toward the faint, ethereal glow of the worms themselves. The light is their lure, and their trap, a biological lantern meant to mimic the moonlight that doesn't exist here. When a wandering insect drifts too close, it becomes ensnared in the threads, and the glowworm feeds in the gentle silence of its own constellation. In places like Waitomo Cave in New Zealand, thousands of these creatures form galaxies across the ceilings. When explorers extinguish their lamps, the darkness transforms. A dome of living starlight spreads overhead, so dense and perfect that it feels as though the world above has inverted itself, sky and stone trading places. The cave becomes an illusion of infinity, a universe contained within a drop of silence. The light produced by these larvae is called bioluminescence, an ancient chemical reaction shared by creatures from ocean depths to forest floors. It is one of nature's most elegant forms of communication. Energy turned into radiance, a message written in light rather than sound. The glow of a worm, the flicker of a firefly, the pulse of a jellyfish drifting through the abyss. All are chapters in the same language of luminescence. But here, in the cave, that language takes on an almost spiritual stillness. Each light is a heartbeat, each flicker a whisper of survival in the dark. And not all creatures who glow use it to hunt. Some use it to find mates, others to warn predators, and some, like the worms in these caves, to create beauty as a byproduct of life itself. Standing beneath their glow, you feel an emotion that has no name, the quiet astonishment of seeing stars where stars should not exist. Beyond these glowing ceilings, other forms of life continue to adapt to darkness in stranger ways. In the limestone caves of Europe lives a ghostly creature known as the or the cave salamander. Its skin is pale, almost translucent, its body long and delicate, its eyes hidden beneath layers of skin that long ago stopped seeing. It breathes through feathery gills and drifts through subterranean streams like a spirit of the water. In this eternal twilight, it has slowed the tempo of life itself, its heart beating barely enough to sustain it, its metabolism so patient that it can survive years without food. Some olms live over a century, outlasting generations of those who study them. They are, in a sense, living embodiments of geological time, creatures that measure life not in days, but in eras. To encounter one is to meet a paradox, a being delicate enough to vanish at touch, yet resilient enough to survive in absolute isolation. Ancient folklore called them baby dragons, born of storms and fire, washed into caves from mythical underworlds. But the truth is far more wondrous. They are the Earth's patient children, guardians of a world that moves too slowly for human senses to follow. In these same waters, scientists have discovered bacteria that feed directly on minerals, microorganisms that transform stone into sustenance. By studying them, researchers have begun to imagine how life might exist on other planets, in lava tubes beneath Mars, or in icy oceans under the moons of Jupiter. If life can endure here, in the stillness and isolation of a cave, then it can endure almost anywhere. And so, in these hidden realms, we glimpse both the beginning and the future of life. A blind salamander gliding through black water, 1,000 glowworms shining like constellations, a single bacterium eating rock, all tell the same story, that life is unstoppable. It does not wait for sunlight or warmth. It does not need to be seen to exist. It simply continues, quietly, in rhythm with the slow heartbeat of the planet. If you listen closely, you can hear that rhythm now. A drip, a flutter, a faint echo, a song that has never been written, but has always been playing deep beneath the surface of the world. Long before cities rose and fell, long before written history, humans sought shelter in the arms of the earth. Caves were our first homes, our first sanctuaries, the places where survival met imagination. They protected us from predators and storms, offered warmth when the world was wild, and became the first theaters of our dreams. Step into one of these ancient shelters and you are stepping into the memory of humanity. On the walls, Faint traces of soot still linger, marks left by torches burning tens of thousands of years ago. In that flickering firelight, our ancestors painted stories. They ground minerals into pigments, mixing red ochre, charcoal, and clay to bring life to the creatures they hunted and revered. These paintings are not crude. They are alive. Bison gallop across the stone as if in motion. Horses, mammoths, and lions emerge from shadows, as though drawn from the very imagination of the earth itself. In places like Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain, these murals stretch across ceilings and walls, illuminated by the faintest glow of modern lamps. When archaeologists first found them, they realized that art was not born in temples or cities, but in the darkness of caves. Here, in the quiet underworld, humanity began to dream beyond survival. Each figure, each handprint, was a declaration. We were here. Many of these handprints remain, stenciled outlines where ancient people pressed their palms against the wall and blew pigment over them, leaving ghostly silhouettes. Some are small, belonging to children. Others are large, belonging to hunters, shamans, storytellers. Together they form a silent chorus, an unbroken connection across tens of millennia. To place your hand near one is to bridge time itself, to feel the warmth of those who came before. They lived by firelight, yet their imagination reached the stars. Caves were not only homes and canvases, they were temples. Across continents and cultures, people have descended into the earth, to worship, to bury their dead, to speak with what they could not see. The darkness was sacred, a realm between life and death, where the ordinary world faded, and only spirit remained. In some caverns, archaeologists have found bodies carefully laid to rest, surrounded by tools, jewelry, or food, offerings to help the departed on their journey beyond. For these early humans, a cave was not simply an empty space. It was the womb of the world, the place from which life began and to which it returned. Even today, some of these burial sites remain hauntingly intact. The air inside is still, untouched by centuries. Bones rest where they were placed, guarded by layers of stone that have kept them from decay. In that silence, you can feel reverence more than sorrow. The people who entered these spaces came not in fear, but in awe. They sensed what we often forget, that the earth itself is alive, and that to descend into it is to approach something eternal. Caves became the first sanctuaries of belief. Here, sound and shadow became ritual. The flicker of firelight could make painted animals move, transforming the walls into living stories. Perhaps those early artists danced as they painted, their chants echoing off the stone, their voices merging with the drip of water and the sigh of air. It was theater, ceremony, and prayer combined. The beginning of art and religion intertwined, and within these painted walls, we can still see our reflection. We are not so different from those who stood there with torches in hand, looking up at the same stone and imagining meaning. They sought connection in the dark, with nature, with death, with something beyond themselves. So do we. In the glow of screens or the stillness of cathedrals, we are still searching for the same quiet wonder that once flickered against a cave wall. To walk through these ancient sanctuaries is to feel the hum of shared existence, the heartbeat of every story ever told, every image ever drawn, echoing back from the walls that sheltered our beginnings. And perhaps, If you listen closely enough, you might still hear the soft sound of breathing, the rustle of fur, the crackle of fire, the first symphony of humanity beneath the earth. The further back we look into the darkness of time, the clearer it becomes that caves were more than mere shelters. They were sacred thresholds, places where the human spirit met the unknown. To enter a cave was to cross a boundary, to step from the world of sunlight into the world of mystery, where the living and the dead, the seen and unseen, seemed to overlap. Across continents and ages, people have turned to the earth's hollows for ritual and reverence. In ancient Greece, caverns were believed to be gateways to Hades, or doorways into the realm of the underworld. In Mesoamerica, they were portals to Xibalba, the world of spirits and ancestors. In India, entire temples were carved directly into cliffs and caves, their stone pillars sculpted with the devotion of centuries. In these spaces, silence was not emptiness, it was presence. The air itself seemed alive with divinity. Imagine a torch flickering in one of these temples, its glow dancing over carvings of gods and celestial beings. Chants echo from the walls, their reverberations weaving through the chamber like wind through a forest. You can almost feel the pulse of faith, not loud, not forced, but quiet and enduring, as if the stone itself were listening. In Europe, monks and hermits sought the same solitude. They retreated into caves to escape the noise of the world, to find silence vast enough to contain prayer. Some lived for years in the same dark chambers, and their only companions the steady drip of water and the beating of their own hearts. They carved small altars into rock, lit candles in natural alcoves, and found peace in the stillness that most would fear. Even today, the remnants of their cells remain, symbols of devotion carved into stone, testimonies to a faith that sought not heaven in the sky, but within the earth itself. Far from being tombs, these caves became places of rebirth. The ancients saw them as wombs, openings through which life and spirit could pass between worlds. Rituals were held to mark the changing of seasons, to ask for rain, for fertility, for forgiveness. The very act of entering the cave was symbolic, a descent into darkness, a confrontation with the unknown, and, at last, an emergence into light. It was transformation embodied in journey. Some caves became literal sanctuaries of belief. In places like Ajanta and Ellora in India, monks carved entire monasteries into living rock, temples adorned with paintings and sculptures that still glow with color after more than 1,000 years. The ceilings bloom with lotus flowers, the walls with scenes from sacred stories. Every stroke of pigment, every chisel mark is an offering to eternity. When wind passes through the corridors, it hums softly, as though the cave itself were chanting. Elsewhere, natural caverns were adapted for worship. In the hills of Italy, chapels were built underground, their altars aligned with shafts of sunlight that only appear once a year. In the American Southwest, the ancient ancestral Puebloans built entire cities beneath overhanging cliffs, where every sunrise cast light upon their stone homes and painted walls. Each culture, distant in time and place, found the same truth, that the earth's depths hold something sacred. Even today, the echoes of those beliefs endure. Pilgrims still descend into holy caves across the world. In Greece, in Mexico, to pray, to meditate, to seek healing. They carry candles and incense, their footsteps mingling with centuries of devotion. Inside, the air is cool, the light dim, and the silence profound. You can feel history pressing close, not as weight, but as presence, as if every whispered prayer ever spoken there still floats quietly in the air. To worship within a cave is to surrender to humility. There are no walls built by human hands, no ceilings gilded with gold, only stone, water, and shadow. And yet, within that simplicity lies the most powerful architecture of all, the architecture of awe. It is the same wonder that drew our ancestors to paint the walls of Lascaux, that inspired monks to carve temples from cliffs, and that still calls pilgrims into the depths. Perhaps, at its heart, the cave represents something deeply human, the desire to return, to seek safety in the embrace of the earth, to listen to what the silence has to say. For when we descend into the dark with reverence, we do not find emptiness, we find reflection, the echo of our own longing for meaning, and the quiet assurance that even in darkness, there is light waiting to be seen. The bond between myth and stone is older than history. Long before science could explain their origins, humans looked into the mouths of caves and saw something more than rock. They saw mystery, the threshold to another world. In every culture, the darkness beneath the earth was imagined as a realm of gods, spirits, and forgotten souls. And so, the mythology of caves became one of the oldest stories on earth. To the ancient Greeks, certain caves were believed to lead directly into Hades, the shadowy kingdom of the dead. The entrance at Cape Tainarum in southern Greece was said to be one such passage, a gateway through which Orpheus descended to reclaim his lost love, Eurydice. The myth tells that he walked through corridors of stone, his music echoing through the underworld, softening the hearts of spirits and gods alike. That descent from light to shadow, from life to death, became an enduring metaphor for the human search for meaning and for the fragile hope that love could outlast even darkness. Far across the world, in Mesoamerican myth, the Maya believed caves were portals to Xibalba, the realm of the dead and the gods of the underworld. To them, each cave mouth was a sacred threshold, a place where the living could speak with ancestors and offer gifts to appease the unseen. Ceramic vessels, jade beads, and even human sacrifices have been found deep within these sacred caverns. Each artifact a message, each flame a prayer. The Maya did not fear these places, they revered them. They understood that what lay below was as necessary to life as what shone above. In ancient China, legends told of caves that led to immortal kingdoms. Hidden deep within mountains, these were said to be sanctuaries of sages, worlds untouched by time where enlightenment awaited the worthy. To find one was to find the boundary between heaven and earth, a dream that has echoed in stories ever since. Even in the far north, the Inuit spoke of ice caves that served as homes for spirits, the meeting point between humans and the souls of animals they hunted. In Africa, shamans entered volcanic caverns to commune with ancestral forces, believing the earth itself spoke through the stone. The echoes of their chants mingled with the drip of water, turning the cave into a resonating chamber for their prayers. Everywhere on the planet, the same vision emerged: caves as gateways, gateways to death, to rebirth, to knowledge, to transcendence. Even when cultures were separated by oceans, their myths shared the same idea, that to go below the earth was to draw closer to the divine. Perhaps this is why so many heroes in legend must descend before they can rise. The journey underground is the oldest symbol of transformation. The prophet enters the cave to find revelation. The warrior descends to face fear. The poet, like Orpheus, walks through shadow to return with light in his hands. In every story, the cave is both tomb and womb, a place where endings and beginnings meet. Even today, those metaphors endure. Writers, philosophers, and mystics still use the cave as the image of introspection, of facing the self. Plato imagined humanity living inside one, mistaking shadows for reality, until the moment a single person stepped into the light. That allegory still defines how we think about truth, that wisdom comes only when we dare to leave the darkness we know. But myths are not only metaphors, they are memories. Many of these stories began with real places, with real people standing at the mouths of real caves, feeling the cool air rising from the depths, and sensing that something waited below. Even now, it is difficult to shake that feeling. There is something primal in the sound of air moving through a cavern, in the way light seems to vanish at the entrance, in the echo that repeats your voice back to you, slightly changed, as if spoken by another world. For ancient peoples, this was proof enough. Caves were not merely hollows in rock. They were the breath of the planet, the lungs through which life and spirit flowed. To stand before one was to stand before a mystery too large to name. And maybe, even in the age of satellites and maps, that feeling still endures for us. Every descent is a return, not just into the earth, but into ourselves. Each cavern reminds us that beneath the surface of the known, there is always more waiting to be discovered. Myth, science, and faith may speak different languages, but they share the same truth, that the deeper we go, the closer we come to understanding what it means to be alive. So, when the wind sighs through a cave mouth, when water drips in rhythm through the dark, listen closely. You may be hearing something older than speech, the voice of the world itself, telling its first and oldest story, that even in darkness there is meaning. Not all stories hidden in stone are myths. Some are written in fossils, bones, and the silent imprints of time, records of lives that walked, swam, or crawled through a world that no longer exists. Caves, with their cool air and stillness, are among Earth's greatest archivists. They preserve what the wind and sun would erase. Deep beneath the surface, where temperature and humidity remain almost constant, caves act as natural vaults. The remains of ancient creatures lie entombed within, untouched for tens of thousands of years. From mammoths to cave bears, from saber-toothed cats to extinct birds, their bones rest quietly in the dark, telling stories that time itself forgot to speak aloud. Some caves became natural traps, hidden pits where animals fell and never escaped. Over millennia, their skeletons layered together, filling chambers with relics of vanished ages. In the icy caves of Europe, explorers have uncovered the bones of prehistoric bears, still marked with the grooves of claws and teeth from long-forgotten battles. Elsewhere, in desert caverns, entire packs of wolves lie fossilized in eternal stillness, caught in the sediment that preserved their final hunt. In certain places, these ancient vaults have revealed not only the animals that lived before us, but also those who came before we were fully human. The bones of Neanderthals have been found in deep caverns across Europe and Asia, their tools, fire pits, and ornaments still resting where they left them. In Shanidar Cave in Iraq, archaeologists discovered something extraordinary. A Neanderthal burial covered with traces of pollen. It suggested that even then, These early humans may have placed flowers upon their dead, a gesture of empathy, of understanding that death is not merely an ending, but a passage, a concept as human as art itself. Caves preserved these stories not just through isolation, but through patience. Layer upon layer of dust, clay, and minerals sealed away entire chapters of life. When scientists carefully brush away the sediment, they are not just excavating bone, they are unearthing moments frozen in time. A single footprint pressed into soft cave mud. It can survive for 30,000 years. Its edges still sharp, its shape still human. The person who left it may have been carrying a torch, a child, or a story. And now, centuries later, that step is a bridge across time, a reminder that we have always walked in wonder and curiosity. In other caverns, paleontologists have found fossils embedded directly into the walls, shells of marine creatures, the remains of coral reefs and ocean floor sediments locked within limestone far inland. These are whispers from a world that once existed beneath the sea, a time when mountains were reefs and deserts were ocean beds teeming with life. To run your hand along such stone is to touch the memory of an ancient ocean, to feel the weight of water turned to stone. Even the smallest formations within caves tell stories of time. Stalagmites and stalactites record more than beauty. They are archives of climate. Each layer of mineral contains traces of rainfall, temperature, and atmosphere. By studying them, scientists can read the history of the Earth's changing weather, year by year, century by century. They can tell when monsoons weakened, when droughts struck, and when ice sheets advanced or melted. Every glimmering column is both sculpture and chronicle. The planet's diary, written drop by drop. The discoveries hidden in these caverns reveal not only the evolution of life, but the continuity of existence. The same water that carved these chambers once nourished the forests where mammoths roamed. The same minerals that built these crystals once flowed through rivers that shimmered under ancient suns. Everything is connected. The living, the dead, the rock, the rain. The cave is not a tomb, but a cycle, a breathing reminder that the past is not lost, only resting. Standing within one of these ancient vaults, you can almost sense the layers of time pressing around you. Every echo is a memory, every ripple of stone a heartbeat from another age. It's humbling to realize that before there were cities, before language or music or firelight, there was already this, the earth remembering itself through caves. And perhaps that is what makes them so powerful. They do not simply store the past, they preserve the continuity between what was and what is. Each bone, each fossil, each drip of calcite is a thread in the tapestry of existence, a story that began long before us and will continue long after. To look upon a fossil in the glow of a headlamp is to see time itself looking back. It does not speak, but it does not need to. Its silence says everything, that life endures, that memory can turn to stone, and that in the deepest darkness, the earth keeps its promises. As humans learned to tame fire and light, caves became more than shelters, they became mirrors of imagination. The stone walls that once echoed with the sounds of survival slowly began to echo with music, stories, and faith. For thousands of years, our ancestors continued to return to the quiet beneath the earth, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Many civilizations turned caverns into sanctuaries of ritual and power. Kings hid treasures there during wars. Priests conducted secret rites within chambers, lit only by flickering torches. The shadows danced across the walls, turning rock formations into living figures. Even now, in forgotten corners of the world, archaeologists uncover traces of offerings, clay figurines, bowls of ash, gemstones, and carved idols, tokens left for gods that have long since faded into legend. Perhaps the most extraordinary of these discoveries are the sacred writings and artifacts found in hidden caves. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, rested for over 2,000 years in the limestone cliffs of Qumran, their parchment protected from wind, light, and time. They contained hymns, prayers, and fragments of scripture that rewrote humanity's understanding of faith and history. It was as if the earth itself had safeguarded wisdom until we were ready to find it again. But not all cave treasures were meant for revelation. Some were meant to be lost. Throughout history, caves have served as vaults of secrecy, places where armies hid from conquest, where monks buried sacred relics, where rebels and wanderers sought refuge in times of despair. When danger approached, people turned to the ground beneath their feet, for what could be safer than the stone that had existed since before memory began? In Poland, deep within the Wieliczka salt mine, miners carved cathedrals of salt, sculpting altars, statues, and chandeliers from the mineral walls themselves. Today, those vast halls shimmer like frozen starlight, a monument to human devotion to the idea that even underground, art and faith could thrive. In moments like these, the boundary between natural wonder and human creation blurs. The cave becomes a collaboration between geology and spirit. Across Asia, in China, the Longmen, grottos and Mogao caves were carved into cliffs over centuries, filled with thousands of Buddha statues and paintings. Each figure glows faintly in lamplight, its calm expression untouched by 1,000 years of silence. The smell of mineral dust and incense lingers in the air, and even without prayer, the stillness feels sacred. You can sense the devotion of generations, carved directly into stone, hands that worked not for fame, but for eternity. Other caves became places of retreat and meditation. Hermits withdrew into their depths to escape the noise of empires. There, in solitude, they found communion not with gods of thunder, but with silence itself. To live in darkness was to live without distraction, to listen to one's thoughts echo against the walls, until they became still enough to understand. These recluses were often seen as madmen by those above, but perhaps they were simply listening more deeply than the rest of us. There are stories of monarchs who also sought refuge underground. In times of war, kings hid within mountain caverns to escape invading armies. Inside, they left behind weapons, armor, and sometimes entire hoards of gold, treasures swallowed by stone and never found again. Every century brings rumors of their rediscovery, maps pointing to lost troves, legends of glowing chambers filled with jewels. Most are myth, but every myth begins with truth. Somewhere, beneath layers of rock, a forgotten crown may still rest in the dark. Caves became both the refuge of the powerless and the sanctuary of the powerful. For the poor, they were homes, carved by necessity. For the rich, they were vaults of safety and prayer. In both cases, the earth gave shelter, impartial, indifferent, eternal. Whether hiding treasure or seeking peace, humans always return to stone. It has no judgment, no allegiance, no voice. And yet, it has always listened. When we enter these ancient chambers today, flashlight beams flicker over carvings made by human hands centuries ago. You can almost imagine the scenes: priests whispering chants, monks tracing prayers into walls, miners laughing in the echo of their own songs, and then silence. Generations pass, kingdoms rise and fall, and the cave remains unchanged. In the end, these places remind us that history and geology share the same patience. Both move slowly, both endure, and both preserve what we are too quick to forget. Within these underground sanctuaries, time folds in on itself, the breath of ancient kings still mingling with the air we exhale today. It is as if the earth, in its quiet mercy, refused to let memory die. So when you stand in one of these caves, take a moment before speaking. Listen. You may hear echoes that are not your own. The faint murmur of prayers, the ring of metal, the sigh of a flame long extinguished. The earth remembers every sound. It just keeps them waiting in the dark until someone cares to listen again. Some caves hold more than bones, art, or silence. They hold the whispers of the human voice itself. For centuries, travelers, monks, and wanderers have left messages carved into the walls of stone, inscriptions that stretch across time like echoes frozen in rock. Every mark, every line of script is a reminder that people have always longed to be remembered. In some caverns, you can still see ancient graffiti, etched by Roman soldiers who took refuge from war. They scratched their names and prayers into the limestone, recording not victories, but survival. In the deserts of Egypt, pilgrims carved small crosses and symbols beside their campsites, each stroke a gesture of faith against the immensity of the unknown. Centuries later, explorers would stumble upon these marks and feel that same flicker of connection, a simple line of text. Bridging thousands of years, in medieval Europe, monks who sought solitude in caves left behind Latin verses of devotion, scriptures copied onto the walls by candlelight. Some of these writings remain legible today, their letters blackened by smoke but still resolute, testaments to quiet perseverance. They were not meant as messages to others, but as prayers to the stone itself. And perhaps that is what makes them so haunting, the sense that someone once spoke to the earth and believed it could listen. In other parts of the world, the messages take a different form, not words, but footprints. In the soft clay floors of certain caves, archaeologists have found trails of human steps, preserved for tens of thousands of years. Some belong to adults, others to children. A few prints reveal people running, others walking side by side, torches held high, leaving a record of movement that outlasted civilization. To stand in the same place, to see where their bare feet once pressed into the mud, is to feel time collapse. The distance between then and now disappears. You are simply human as they were. There are even caves where handprints, names, and symbols overlap, layered by generations. An ancient hunter might have left a mark of ochre, a monk might have added a cross centuries later, and a modern traveler might leave a signature in pencil. The stone remembers them all without judgment. It does not distinguish between eras or intentions. It only preserves. To the earth, every voice carries equal weight. These traces tell us something profound, that humans, no matter the age, cannot resist the urge to communicate across time. We want to be seen, to know that our existence mattered, that we were part of the long and quiet story of the world. When early explorers of the 19th century began mapping great caverns, they, too, signed their names upon the walls, never realizing they were continuing an ancient tradition. From prehistory to the modern day, each inscription is an act of defiance against impermanence, a small declaration that says, "I was here. I existed." But caves also answer those declarations in their own way. Over centuries, the slow drip of minerals begins to veil the words, covering them in new layers of stone. Some names fade beneath crystal curtains, some handprints dissolve into calcite ripples. The messages remain, but they are transformed, folded back into the fabric of the cave. It is the earth's way of replying, softly, patiently, reminding us that even memory must yield to time. Not all voices in the dark are written. Some are heard and then lost again. In vast chambers, sound behaves strangely. A whisper can travel for hundreds of feet, bouncing off walls in ghostly repetition. A single word can linger, twisting into music before fading into nothing. Ancient rituals once took advantage of this phenomenon. Chants and drums would echo through caverns, their reverberations blending until they seemed supernatural. To those who stood there, it must have felt like the earth itself was answering their songs. Today, musicians still perform in caves, drawn by their otherworldly acoustics. The walls become instruments, the air a living choir. Notes float upward and return changed, as if reshaped by the stone's slow memory. Each tone is a conversation with the planet's heartbeat, a dialogue between art and geology, and as sound fades, another kind of silence follows. Not the absence of noise, but the presence of stillness. It's the kind of silence that fills you completely, that makes your thoughts feel ancient. Inside that stillness, you begin to understand why humans have always come here to sing, to write, to carve, to listen. The cave is the original stage, the first cathedral, the first archive. It holds every echo we've ever offered to it and waits patiently for the next. So when you run your hand along a cave wall and feel the faint groove of an ancient name, or when your voice returns to you, distorted by echo, remember this: you are part of the same conversation. Every word, every sound, is another thread in the story of humankind's dialogue with the earth. And even when we are gone, the stone will continue to whisper back. The deeper we travel into the earth, the more we realize that caves are not empty. They are alive, with movement. Air flows through them like breath. Water drips, trickles, and roars. Even stone itself shifts, expanding and contracting with the slow rhythm of time. Though we often think of caves as still, they are never truly motionless. Listen closely, and you will hear their quiet language, a soft sigh of wind rising from a hidden passage, the distant rumble of an underground river, the delicate plink of a droplet falling from stalactite to stone. Each sound has meaning, each vibration a pulse in the planet's vast circulatory system. In some caverns, these movements can be felt on the skin. Cold air brushes your face as pressure changes between chambers. It is the cave breathing. As temperatures shift between day and night above ground, the air inside responds, inhaling, exhaling, moving in waves that seem almost alive. To stand at the mouth of such a cave and feel that invisible wind emerging from the dark is to sense the earth's slow respiration. It is the breath of stone, steady, ancient, unending. But air is not the only motion here. Caves glisten because they are always building and eroding themselves at once. Condensation forms on the walls, tiny droplets collecting until they fall, each one leaving behind a faint trace of minerals. Over time, those traces harden, growing into stalactites and flowstones. To early explorers, the walls seemed to sweat, as if the earth were alive and laboring quietly in the dark. And then there is the sound, that constant dripping, soft but eternal. It is both monotony and meditation. Every drop that falls marks a passage of time too long to imagine. If you could listen for 1,000 years, you might hear a stalactite grow by only an inch. This is how the cave reshapes itself. Slowly, imperceptibly, with infinite patience. Not all of the cave's movements are gentle. In some regions, the earth quakes, stone groans and shifts, and chambers collapse under their own weight. When the ceiling of a cavern finally gives way, the world above feels it. The ground sinks, trees vanish, and what was once hidden becomes a vast hollow open to the sky. These are the sinkholes, the sudden revelations of the underground. They remind us that beneath every field, every forest, every city, there are caverns waiting, and that the border between surface and void is far thinner than we like to believe. For those who explore, the risk is constant, but the beauty irresistible. To navigate through narrow tunnels, to crawl where air barely moves, is to trust the stone completely. Every explorer who enters such places, the cave allows entry only on its own terms. A careless sound, a heavy step, a stray touch can change an environment that took millions of years to form. In many caverns, scientists have discovered faint currents of radon gas, odorless, invisible, but potent. It seeps through cracks from the Earth's crust, a natural byproduct of decay that teaches us how active the ground beneath us truly is. Caves are not static. They are chemical reactors, balancing gases, moisture, and minerals in delicate equilibrium. The air here may shimmer with unseen energy, its composition constantly evolving, a living experiment that has been running since the planet first cooled from molten fire. Even the silence of caves has structure. It is not void, but vibration slowed to stillness. If you pause long enough, your own heartbeat will begin to echo, melding with the background hum of the earth itself. In this place, sound is shape. A whisper can fill a room. A breath can wake an echo. Ancient people once interpreted this resonance as spirit, voices of ancestors, gods, or guardians of the deep. But perhaps they were not wrong. For what is an echo, if not the memory of a voice carried through time? Some caves amplify sound in remarkable ways. A shout may return after seconds, its tone altered by the curves of the chamber. In others, the architecture mutes completely, swallowing every vibration into stone. Scientists study these effects to understand acoustics, but poets might say the cave chooses what to remember and what to forget. Sometimes, even the earth keeps its secrets by sound alone. There are caverns so vast that temperature, water, and air combine to create something astonishing: underground weather. Warm air from the surface mixes with cool subterranean currents, forming fog, mist, even gentle rain. Clouds drift lazily through colossal chambers, their edges lit by shafts of light breaking through collapsed ceilings. Here, you can watch rain fall, where the sun never shines, a miniature sky inside the earth. It feels like walking through the dream of a planet that remembers both sea and sky in the same breath. To witness these phenomena is to understand that the earth is not passive stone. It is a body, breathing, moving, alive, in its own slow rhythm. Caves are its lungs and arteries, its hidden organs of transformation. They hum with energy, not the kind measured in machines or charts, but the quiet current of existence itself. And when you finally step back into daylight, the wind on your face feels different. You have heard the planet breathe. You have listened to its slow heartbeat. And in that listening, You have felt what it means to belong to something vast and living, the silent motion beneath every moment of your life. Every cave, no matter how deep or ancient, is a work of light. Even in darkness, its story is written by illumination. The faint shimmer of minerals, the glint of crystals, and the soft glow of reflections that linger long after the torch has dimmed. Light, when it finds its way underground, transforms stone into wonder. Some caves seem to hold their own secret luminescence. The walls glimmer faintly with minerals that store and release light, a phenomenon known as phosphorescence. When a bright lamp flashes across the chamber and is then extinguished, the stone continues to glow for a few seconds, a fading afterimage, like starlight slowly dying across the night sky. It is the Earth's quiet reminder that light, once born, never truly vanishes, it only lingers, hidden. Other caves reveal a more vivid spectacle. Under ultraviolet light, certain minerals burst into color, fluorescent reds, greens, and blues glowing like liquid fire. What seems ordinary in daylight becomes alive in the dark, walls painted by chemistry rather than by human hand. Calcite, gypsum, fluorite, and aragonite each blaze in their own hue, turning caverns into living rainbows of crystal. It is not imagination, it is science performed by beauty. Every glow, every shimmer, is the result of atoms releasing energy, a dance of light within the body of the earth. And yet, among these glowing worlds, there are places where light takes on another form, not chemical, but living. Some caves harbor bioluminescent organisms, microbes and fungi that shine faintly in the dark. Their glow is soft, ghost-like, a bluish hue that seems to breathe from the walls. Scientists still study why they shine, whether to attract, to warn, or simply because light is a byproduct of survival. To witness it is to stand in awe at the idea that even in absolute darkness, life has found a way to make itself seen. In colder regions of the world, a different kind of light rules the underground. Within ice caves, the ceiling and walls shimmer in impossible shades of blue. This glow is not from any lamp or flame, but from sunlight itself, filtered through layers of frozen water until only the shortest wavelengths remain. Blue is the last light strong enough to pass through such depth, the purest color of cold. Standing within these frozen corridors, you are surrounded by radiance sculpted from time and temperature. Each translucent wall captures bubbles of ancient air, each layer preserving the memory of winters thousands of years old. To breathe in such a place is to inhale the past, to feel the weight of ages encased in crystal stillness. Not all ice caves are cold tombs. Some breathe with meltwater, their rivers carving tunnels that glisten like glass. When the sun strikes the entrance, light floods in and scatters across the ice, creating the illusion of walking through a sapphire ocean. For a moment, the world seems inverted. You are swimming through frozen light, a diver in a sea of solid color. But the magic is temporary. These formations melt and shift with the seasons, collapsing and reforming as the glacier moves. A tunnel that exists today may vanish by next year, its beauty erased and remade by time's patient hand. They are the most fragile of the Earth's cathedrals, temporary miracles carved by temperature and silence. Further south, in the warmth of volcanic regions, light behaves differently. When lava once flowed through tunnels beneath the surface, its surface cooled first, forming a hardened crust, while molten rock continued to stream below. When the eruption ended, those molten rivers drained away, leaving behind lava tubes, hollow corridors of obsidian and basalt. The walls of these caves are glossy and dark, reflecting light like liquid metal. Shine a beam along them, and it returns in faint red glimmers as though embers still smolder just beneath the surface. Here, fire becomes memory, and darkness itself holds the echo of heat. Some lava tubes stretch for miles, their floors smooth, their ceilings rippled from the flow of ancient molten rock. Step inside, and you can feel the duality of creation, the violence that forged them, and the serenity that remains. It is as if the earth had exhaled fire, then cooled into silence. Caves, whether born of water, ice, or flame, teach us the same truth, that light and darkness are not opposites, but partners in creation. The glow of a crystal, the shimmer of a drop, the gleam of an ice wall, all are born from contrast, from the meeting of brilliance and shadow. Without the dark, there would be no revelation. To stand within a glowing cavern is to witness the earth's inner alchemy, a transformation of matter into color, of energy into art. The light that touches stone here is not just illumination, it is memory, a continuation of the first light that ever touched the planet. Perhaps that is why such places move us so deeply. They remind us that even in silence, the world still shines. It may glow faintly, softly, but it glows nonetheless. In the end, light and darkness do not oppose one another. They complete the story together, one carving, one revealing. And within that balance, we glimpse something greater than both. The patient artistry of the earth, painting its own eternal masterpiece beneath our feet. If light is the soul of the cave, then crystal is its memory, the earth's frozen thought solidified through time. In the deepest chambers, far below human reach, minerals gather and grow into impossible shapes, their forms patient, deliberate, and astonishing. It is here that nature sculpts with the precision of eternity. Perhaps the most breathtaking example lies in northern Mexico, the Cave of the Crystals, beneath the Naica mine. Discovered by accident in the year 2000, this hidden chamber revealed something beyond imagination. Translucent pillars of selenite, some stretching longer than city buses, others weighing more than 10 tons. They shimmer like frozen lightning, their surfaces glowing faintly in the heat and humidity. To step into that chamber even for a moment is to stand within the lungs of the earth, where minerals have been exhaling light for 500,000 years. But beauty here is perilous. The air in the cave is scorching and saturated with moisture. At over 50 degrees Celsius, with near total humidity, human beings can survive only minutes without protection. Explorers must wear cooling suits and carry chilled air tanks just to witness the sight. A forest of crystal. Radiant, yet its perfection preserved by the very heat that forbids touch. It is a paradox only the earth could create, that the most fragile beauty is born from the most hostile conditions. Elsewhere, the underground world creates wonders on a smaller, but no less miraculous scale. Some caverns are lined with crystal gardens, where mineral-rich water drips slowly through cracks and deposits microscopic crystals that bloom across the walls. Quartz, calcite, and gypsum grow in clusters like flowers, each one reflecting a geometry unique to its chemical essence. Over millennia, they form curtains, spirals, and translucent needles that catch light as though they were alive. Each drop of water here is both sculptor and storyteller, carrying within it the ingredients of form and color. When it falls, it writes another line in the script of the cave's creation. Sometimes, these formations take unexpected shapes, thin sheets that flow down walls like fabric, or stalactites so fine they ring like glass when touched. In certain caverns, explorers have found cave pearls, small, perfectly smooth spheres of calcium carbonate formed as mineral layers build around a single grain of sand, rolling gently in pools of water. Over centuries, they grow rounder and larger, shining softly like pale moons resting on the cave floor. Unlike treasures forged by human hands, these pearls are shaped by stillness and time. They are what happens when patience becomes visible. Not all crystals dwell in silence. Some hum faintly when light or vibration touches them, a resonance produced by their atomic structure. To early explorers, these sounds seemed mystical, a soft music emanating from the walls. To scientists, they are proof that matter and sound are intertwined more deeply than we can sense. Every crystal vibrates, every structure responds to energy. A reminder that even the most solid things are, in truth, always in motion. These minerals do more than dazzle. They record the history of the planet's chemistry. By studying the isotopes within them, scientists can read ancient climates, discovering when oceans rose, when volcanoes erupted, and how life adapted to change. Crystals are timekeepers, their molecular lattices preserving conditions long vanished. Each one is a piece of geological memory, a shard of time turned to light. It is humbling to imagine that the same elements that form crystals deep within caves also exist within us. Calcium, carbon, silica, iron, the very atoms that build stalactites, flow through our bones and blood. We are, in a sense, walking reflections of the minerals that shaped our planet. The glow of a quartz wall, the glint of calcite under a beam, is a reminder we are part of it, animated by the same chemistry of patience and transformation. To stand before a wall of crystal is to witness the slowest kind of art. Art that does not need an audience, that creates not for beauty, but for balance. The cave does not seek to impress. It only continues, molecule by molecule, growing and dissolving, breathing and rebuilding itself in silence. Yet its creations outlast civilizations, outshine palaces, and outlive the memory of their own making. In their glow, we can see the paradox of existence, that strength is born from fragility, that endurance comes from surrender, and that what appears lifeless is, in truth, alive in a language slower than time. When explorers leave these crystal chambers, their lights fade, but the minerals remain, shimmering in the dark, silent witnesses to the patience of the earth. They will continue to grow long after we are gone, turning each droplet into structure, each breath of air into shimmer. And perhaps, one day far beyond our own era, someone will find them again, still glistening, proof that the planet never stopped dreaming. Caves are not only museums of the Earth's past, they are laboratories of its future. Within these silent systems, scientists are uncovering clues that may one day shape medicine, technology, and even humanity's journey to other worlds. What once seemed only stone and shadow has become a frontier of discovery. It began with bacteria. In 2015, researchers exploring a remote cavern found microbes resistant to nearly every known antibiotic. These organisms had never encountered humans, never touched sunlight, and yet had evolved molecular defenses against modern drugs. They had existed in isolation for millions of years, perfecting the chemistry of survival. To the scientists, It was a revelation, a living archive of ancient biology, and perhaps a key to future medicine. If such life can endure in places without light, oxygen, or nourishment, what cures? What new compounds might be hidden in the genomes of these unseen beings? Even now, expeditions descend into deeper systems, collecting samples from pools untouched since before recorded time. Within them, new species of bacteria continue to emerge, each carrying unique enzymes and molecules that could revolutionize biotechnology. In laboratories above ground, their DNA is studied for secrets, for the potential to heal, to fight disease, to clean pollution, even to generate renewable energy. The cave, it seems, is not only a vault of the past, but a workshop for the future. Beyond biology, caves also shape the evolution of technology. Engineers and space scientists have turned to them as analogues for alien environments. In the depths of Earth's lava tubes, robots crawl and swim through terrain that mimics the conditions of Mars and the Moon. Their mission: to prepare for exploration beyond our planet. For within these tunnels of stone, humans are rehearsing for journeys yet to come. Here, they test how machines navigate in darkness, how communication travels through rock, and how life might survive beneath alien soil. If one day we build homes on the moon, they may not stand under open skies at all, but within lunar caves, protected by stone just as our ancestors once were. Scientists studying these environments have also found ways to peer into the Earth's secrets without digging. By analyzing the isotopes within stalagmites, they can reconstruct the climate of ages long gone. How rain fell, how forests grew, how oceans rose and receded. These mineral archives serve as nature's own library, each layer a chapter, each crystal a paragraph written in time. From these formations, we learn about droughts that shaped civilizations, about the rise and fall of temperature long before humans began to measure it. It is as though the planet itself has been keeping a diary, and only now have we learned to read its language. But the research doesn't stop with Earth. Beneath the red plains of Mars, scientists suspect the presence of lava tubes similar to our own. They could shelter ice, protect microorganisms from radiation, and provide safe habitats for future explorers. In the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, subsurface oceans may harbor caves beneath frozen crusts, echoes of the same processes that shaped the planet we call home. Studying Earth's caves teaches us not just about geology, but about possibility, how life might emerge anywhere the right chemistry exists. Some scientists even send robots into the darkest corners of our planet to simulate exploration on alien worlds. These machines crawl over slick stone, map chambers with lasers, and collect samples in places too dangerous for humans. Their mechanical hums echo like the footsteps of future explorers, a preview of the day when we may listen to the same sounds beneath another sky. In the silence of these experiments, there is a quiet sense of continuity. What began as curiosity torches carried by ancient wanderers has evolved into a global effort to understand not only the Earth, but the universe itself. The first humans who stepped into a cave were searching for shelter. Those who enter today are searching for truth. It is humbling to realize that the dark, which once frightened and protected us, now holds the answers to some of our greatest questions. What sustains life? How does it adapt? Where else might it thrive? In each droplet, in each stone formation, we find a piece of the puzzle, a map leading from the depths of the Earth to the farthest reaches of space. Caves remind us that exploration does not always mean ascent. Sometimes, progress begins with descent, a journey inward, downward, toward the foundations of existence. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that by studying the dark, we rediscover the light, and in doing so, learn how to carry it farther than ever before. To journey through the world of caves is to trace the long story of humanity itself, a story that begins in darkness and returns to it, not in fear, but in understanding. We have learned to see these silent places, not as voids beneath the surface, but as living archives, as mirrors reflecting both the patience of the planet and the persistence of life. Every discovery made in the deep, every fossil, crystal, and drop of water reminds us that the earth has been keeping its own memory. Caves preserve what the surface forgets. While winds erase and rivers change their course, these hidden realms remain untouched, guarding the truth of time within their walls. The slow drip of a stalactite, the echo of a single drop hitting stone, is a form of writing older than language. To listen is to read. The stories they tell are vast. Some are geological, of continents shifting and seas vanishing. Others are biological, of life adapting where light cannot reach. And some, perhaps the most haunting of all, are human. In paintings and carvings, we see our ancestors reaching for meaning, using pigment and flame to turn fear into art. They descended not only for shelter, but for revelation. They sought, as we still do, to find beauty in the places that once terrified them. Yet caves do more than preserve the past. They challenge us to imagine the future. From bacteria that promise new medicines to robots testing for life beyond Earth, the underworld of stone is guiding us upward toward the stars. The same walls that recorded ancient climate patterns now teach us how to protect our planet from what's to come. In every mineral trace, in every bubble of ancient air trapped in calcite, there are lessons, warnings, even of how fragile the surface world can be. It is strange, perhaps, that by looking down, we begin to understand how to look up. The connection between caves and the cosmos has always been more than metaphor. The same elements that sparkle in crystal, iron, carbon, magnesium, burn in the hearts of stars. The slow chemical reactions that build stalagmites mirror the forces that formed planets. The cave and the galaxy are not opposites, but reflections of one another on different scales. One carved by water, the other by gravity, both shaped by time's patient hand. For those who explore, the descent into the earth becomes an act of meditation. Hours spent in darkness sharpen every sense. The drip of water becomes music, the brush of air, a whisper. When you emerge again into daylight, the world above feels different, brighter, louder, fragile. You begin to see how everything connects, how rivers on the surface feed the veins of water below, how trees draw from the same aquifers that carve caves, how every breath we take is shared with the air rising from beneath our feet. We are not separate from the underground world. We are its continuation. For thousands of years, humans have used the cave as metaphor, a symbol of ignorance and awakening, of fear and rebirth. But perhaps the truth is simpler. The cave is not a place of confinement. It is a place of reflection. It teaches us the value of stillness in a restless age, the importance of listening before acting, of seeing before judging. Inside, the world slows to its natural rhythm, reminding us that creation does not rush. Even silence is an active force, building, shaping. If we were to imagine Earth as a living being, then caves are its mind, where memory, wisdom, and dreams are stored. Every drip of water, every echo, is a thought, forming slowly in the planet's consciousness. And when we enter them, we do not just explore the Earth, we enter the memory of creation itself. Perhaps that is why people continue to descend, even now, with satellites above and data below, because there is something in those depths that cannot be replaced by knowledge, a feeling that belongs only to the experience of wonder. To stand in darkness and hear a drop fall, to see crystals glimmer like captive stars, to feel the air shift against your skin. It is to be reminded that you are part of something vast and alive. So when we speak of caves, we are not speaking only of geology or exploration. We are speaking of a bridge between what we were and what we might yet become. Every journey into the Earth is also a journey into ourselves, a reminder that the universe outside and the universe within are made of the same quiet light. And when we listen carefully to the echoes in those depths, we may discover that the sound we hear is not the cave speaking to us, but the planet breathing, and through it, a whisper of our own place in the infinite story of time. And so, our journey through the hidden world comes to an end, a descent that has led not into fear, but into awe. We have wandered through rivers of stone and chambers of crystal, heard the slow heartbeat of the planet, and glimpsed how life, light, are all part of the same endless rhythm. Caves remind us that the world is deeper than it appears, that beneath every mountain and field, there is a second universe, quiet, ancient, and alive. They are the Earth's memory, its patient heartbeat, its whisper to those willing to listen. And perhaps, in listening, we rediscover our own stillness, the same quiet spark that led our ancestors to paint in firelight and dream in shadow. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine that slow, eternal dripping of water, the faint glow of crystals deep beneath the ground, and the breath of the earth rising softly around you. In that silence, there is no past or future, only being. And within that stillness, you are home, because the cave never truly ends. It continues in stone, in memory, in you. Good night, and see you in the next video.